Okay, so what is my new book about? The new book is called Where I've Been, and it's a collection of short stories. Some people call it flash fiction, or like short stories. You know, each story is maybe the shortest one I think is a page long. The longest one might be 8 pages or something like that. I'm not sure, but in this compilation, I wanted to deal with. I wanted to deal with the complexity of womanhood, right? And so I wanted to show women in different lights. What I didn't want to do is show women in these fantasy roles because I think it affects who we become. And I know that life imitates art, and art imitates life, that whole argument and all of that. But I believe that the images that we see and we read about in art, we see in film and things like that, shape our daughters of tomorrow and sons. And so what I wanted to do is, we always want to show the woman that's, you know, just this docile being and who has this inner strength, and she supports the family, which is beautiful. And I agree that should be the role of women, or has traditionally been a role for women, and should continue to be a role for women. But also, we are complex individuals. We're not only, when we're filling these roles, the traditional roles, we also have feelings. We have, desires. We have, we're real people, right? And so that's what I want. It's almost like, I would say it's akin to that. Remember when Sidney Poitier, he was in a role where the white man slapped him. And Sidney Poitier, I saw him on an interview where he said the only way that he would do that is if he was able to slap the white man back on film. And I remember watching that film, and I was amazed, like, oh, and you don't think about it like, oh, the black man hit the white man. You know, it's not promoting violence. It just introduced the idea or the concept of equality, where if somebody commits something against you, and then you have the audacity to do it back. And that was amazing to me. And so a couple of stories in this book, what I did was the same type of thing, and it came out of when I was in graduate school. When I was working on my MFA, we had to read all of the great classics, some great writing, which I really liked. We read Invisible Man, we read, all of that. So Ellison, we read Morrison, we read just everybody, right? And so what I found for myself, it was kind of disturbing to read some of those things, like read about Pecola and the Bluest Eye, and how she was molested. And then all these books, I know it's reality, so I don't have a problem with that. And I know everybody has their own story, and so everybody should tell their story. The problem I have is that for that literature, there was not a wide variety of literature. All of the women were victims. None of the women sought revenge, and none of that. And so I was very, very, very bothered by that. And so one night I told a writing buddy of mine who was also on the program, he's a very accomplished fiction writer, I said, we were talking about it on the phone, he said, well, that's just life, that's how it is, you can't get mad at what's real, that's reality. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to write something. And so I got off the phone with him that night, and I wrote that story. What is that story called at the end, where the guy has AIDS and he's giving it to all these abusing all the women in the church, misusing them and all of this here, misleading them. I wrote that story. I called him and I said, I just emailed you something. Read the story and then call me back and tell me what you think of it. And it was so funny to me. I knew that I was going to publish that story when he called me back and he said, I mean, he was speechless. He was choking. You can't write that, because the woman in the story, she's holding the guy by his, his manhood, and he said, "Oh, you can't write that story." Oh no, I mean, I said, "Why?" He said, "Cause you just can't." I said, "Why?" He said, "Cause I mean, nobody will read that. Nobody. Just women just don't do that in stories." I said, "Why not? Like you said, it's just fiction, and it's a possibility. It's supposed to mirror real life." And he said, "Yeah, but I mean, you can't do it." It was so absolutely funny to me that I knew at that moment that I would publish that story. And so what I want to do is say, what I want to do in these stories, what I want to do is say, if it's fiction, then why can't the woman do it? And it's not promoting violence, it's not promoting infidelity, but I'm saying where we have all the stories, the man has 5 wives and all of that, but he's a decent man, and the story shows his humanity. He just has multiple wives. And so I wanted to show a story where the woman, we see her humanity and her obligation to family and all of that, but yet she has 2 husbands. How does that one work? So I just explore some of those types of things in the story, in the book. I think that's enough for now. I'm sleepy, girl. That's enough. We have to do this another thing. I'm sleepy. Okay, so what else?